Hi guys, welcome back to talkSPORT's YouTube channel, and I'm delighted to be joined by talkSPORT's very own David Tanner. David, how are you, my man? All good?
Absolutely superb, Mario. Always good to talk to you, mate.
Yeah, good to see you, my man. Thank you for joining me. Let's get straight into it then. Rangers. I mean, they're in the news, they're in the
Oh, listen,
headlines.
I'm off.
Yeah. David, don't leave me, mate. Don't leave me. I need you here for this, okay? I'm gonna try and go easy on you, but how the Rangers hierarchy feeling following Steven Gerrard snubbing the club and the chance to return to the Ibrox?
Well, I think they're exposed. There's no doubt about it. The rumbles coming from Steven Gerrard's camp was that he didn't like what he saw when he looked under the bonnet at Rangers. The suggestion being that he wanted to make the signings, which he did very well in his first time in charge at Rangers. Kevin Thelwell's view, it would appear, was that that is his role at the football club. So that seems to be where the seeds of discontent were for Steven Gerrard. As far as we're aware, Gerrard hasn't gone public on this. It would be interesting to hear from him. Stevie G, if you're watching, come on, let us know what happened there. So I think whatever happens, we're in a situation where Rangers knew that their manager was clearly not working weeks ago. Anybody could see that. Um, they should have had a plan already in the way that West Ham did, in the way that Nottingham Forest did when they asked their managers. They appointed on the same day. Now, as we speak, it's been 10 days since Russell Martin was fired by Rangers, and it might be unfair to say they're no further forward. They certainly don't have an appointment, and they won't have a full-time manager in position for the next game. So that exposes the Rangers hierarchy to all manner of deserved criticism. And certainly they've put themselves in a situation whereby every minute there is no clarity with the managerial situation. The apathy and the anger grows. And trust me, the Rangers supporters are angry. They, of course, themselves saw that face to face in Graz recently after Rangers lost to a bang average Sturm Graz side in the Europa League. Kevin Thelwell, the sporting director, and Patrick Stewart, the chief executive, got it full volume in their faces, literally, from the Rangers supporters who were staying at the Club Hotel. And even though Russell Martin has gone, I can tell you the discontent has not gone with him.
Well, let's stick with those two then, Kevin Thelwell and Patrick Stewart. How toxic is that situation, David? And is it a situation that can continue, or is it just unsustainable now?
Well, something's got to give, and I would imagine that it would be the appointment of a manager. That might buy them a little bit of time. I think there's growing discontent from the supporters. Now, the supporters at the beginning of this season said, "Great to have new owners, great to have the American money backing Rangers, but if you're going to appoint Russell Martin, we're not having that. We saw what he did at Southampton. That will not work." At Rangers. This is not a team where that form of play will work, that tactic will work. It didn't work. So the Rangers supporters were angry that they were ignored and were saying, "We told you so. You didn't know any better." And here we are in another situation whereby, every single decision they make is going to be scrutinized heavily. I don't know if they can come back from it, to be perfectly honest with you. You wouldn't wish that on anybody, but of course that's life. That's life at football, and it's life at a big football club at Rangers when they're used to winning trophies. And in recent years, there's been chaos and carnage. They've handed Celtic innumerable titles, four since Steven Gerrard won the title, stopping Celtic doing 10 in a row. But here we are, Celtic are halfway to another 9 in a row and aiming for 10. So it's Groundhog Day in many ways at Rangers. New names, but the similar carnage.
Well, you say it's Groundhog Day. There's been a lot of change since Steven Gerrard was last at the club, including the 49ers' involvement with the club. Was it the right decision then, do you think, from Steven Gerrard not to return to the club? Would he have risked damaging his legacy at Rangers?
I don't know, to be perfectly honest with you. What is for sure is that Steven Gerrard spoke to Rangers. He did so, we presume, with the intention of see what they were like, and at the end of it all, taking the job and getting back into a club that he knows is a massive club, a club where he knows he's adored, almost as much as he is at Liverpool. So he went into that. You would have to assume that discussion with Rangers with one thing in mind, taking the job, and he didn't do it. He didn't like what he saw, or he didn't like what he was offered. And that is a problem for the Rangers hierarchy because, you know, they're the guys who went to see him and were snubbed. Um, and the Rangers supporters get that because that's the way that they feel about them. Certainly, most of them do after, you know, the recent trials and tribulations and sackings and also appointments as well. Kevin Felwell's decision to appoint his own son at the height of the Russell Martin crisis. I can't get my head around that decision, to be perfectly honest with you. Even if they waited a fortnight, it might have landed a bit sweeter with the supporters. So the optics in that aren't great. And in fact, the optics on everything around Rangers at the moment is really, really bad. And I think that's you know, down to decision making by the executives.
With Steven Gerrard turning down the job, David, it leads to other names. Danny Röhl, Sheffield Wednesday manager, former Rangers player Kevin Muscat, who's currently managing Shanghai Port out in China. He seems to be the most popular. Who does it look most likely is going to take the job, and who would you pick?
Well, I think the Danny Röhl was certainly the one who was the one that we're talking to immediately after Steven Gerrard became the favourite for a while. Naturally, as they were talking to him, I'm not entirely convinced. You know, mid-table in the championship, you know, it doesn't really set the header on fire. You know, at a club which has had managers like Graham Souness, Walter Smith, Alec McLeish, Dick Advocat, and more recently Steven Gerrard. So that for me is an odd one. He lost heavily to Russell Martin. I couldn't help noticing when he came up against him when he was manager at Chef Wed. So for me, it seems same old. And what's the point of getting Russell Martin out when you're bringing something fairly similar in? And that's a sweeping generalisation, I know, but it doesn't set the heather on fire. I'm not a fan of this head coach job title. If you go up the famous marble staircase at Ibrox, the office at the top of the stairs says on it manager. It doesn't say head coach. It says manager in block capitals. And this particular type of football club needs a figurehead. And I don't think Danny would be that type of guy. Kevin Muscat, I know. His agent is Craig Moore, his former Australian Rangers teammate, who's based in Scotland. So Muskie has been connected with the club a couple of times. He was only there for a year under Alec McLeish, who's backed him today in an interview in the Sun newspaper. Tough as old boots as a player. That's been being euphemistic. He would use two feet when one would do. Kevin. So it's certainly a tough guy. He replaced Ange Postecoglou at Yokohama and did better and won the title a couple of times. He's now in China. So it's an unusual route to Rangers, but certainly he knows the Scottish game. So did Russell Martin, of course. He'd 6 months on loan at Rangers. But I think Muscat's got something about him that would make me think that he's got more of a chance. But I was intrigued that the bookmakers stopped taking bets on Steven Gerrard again earlier today. So maybe they know something that we don't at this stage. But Kevin Muscat, certainly of the 2 or 3 names that are being mentioned at the moment, seems like the best candidate to me at this time.
Yeah, I mean, let's watch that space. I'd be flabbergasted if Steven Gerrard manages to get in the hot seat, but let's see. Rangers, obviously, you know, David, you don't need me to say it. I'm going to say it anyway. Terrible start to the season. 1 win in their first 7 in the league. Is this a job, Dave, that a new manager can actually come in, have a positive impact this season? Europa League, of course, we sort of touched on 2 defeats from the 2 games. Is it a poison chalice, or can a manager come in and make this right?
Yeah, it's a really good question, Romario. A new manager can come in and fix this straight away. Some of the players aren't good enough, there's no doubt about that, but a lot of them are. The spine of the team is terrific. You've got Jack Butland in goal, you've got John Suter in front of him, you've got Nico Raskan in midfield, And they've signed Miovski, the former Aberdeen striker, who came in and has scored already. And I think he's a terrific signing. So I think the spine of the team is there. Ali McCoist on Sports Breakfast on talkSPORT described Rangers as looking like a bunch of wee boys. And I can't argue with that. There are too many wee boys who've come in. They're not fit for Scottish football. They're not fit for the Europa League. They're not fit for a club like Rangers, which through the years, as every club that comes up against them want to beat them. I hate the old cliche, every game is a cup final, but it's like a cup final for their opposition. So they need to be rough, they need to be tough, and so there needs to be improvement in that squad. But certainly, for me, the criticism that Russell Martin made of the Rangers players meant that quite clearly had a demotivating effect on the players. That diminished the team's opportunities for winning a game, and that led to Russell Martin leaving. The next manager, and he should be a manager, not a head coach, will not make that mistake, that's for sure. And if he does, he deserves to fall on his sword the way that Russell did. So for me, it's got to be a good opportunity for Rangers to do well. This, remember, is a season that Celtic have been knocked out of the Champions League in disgrace. They've not won a big game in this calendar year, Celtic, So Celtic have got their problems, and some of the more experienced players are getting older, and they are vulnerable. Even when Rangers were playing abysmally under Russell Martin, they managed to get a draw against Celtic. They should have beaten them. Celtic have improved. They have strengthened in the transfer window. But to come back to your question, this is a Rangers team that will improve under new management. There's no doubt about that. They do have some good players, and the spine of the team is good.
Well, you mentioned Celtic there, David, who obviously are Rangers' biggest rival, but there is a new rival who that has appeared. Tony Bloom's invested in them Hearts. Their manager, of course, just won Manager of the Month, Derek McInnes, who's actually been mentioned alongside the next Rangers manager. But are Rangers in danger of allowing Hearts to slip in? Of course, like I mentioned, they've got that new investment, and we've all seen what Tony Bloom's done for Brighton. Is there a genuine fear amongst the Rangers fans that Hearts could be a serious contender?
Well, this year they should be. I mean, they're top of the league. They're a couple of points clear of Celtic, and they're on a different postcode from Rangers, whose form has been relegation form. Let's be brutally frank about it. Rangers are not going to get relegated, but their form is at the moment relegation form. And that's something that has never been said about Rangers in their history. So the Hearts have got the manager and Derek McInnes, who should have been the Rangers manager. They should have appointed him at the start of this season. They should have appointed him in previous seasons as well. He was the man. I did a famous interview on TV years ago with the late Walter Smith. And Rangers had just sacked one of their appalling managerial choices in the years that they just returned to the Premiership. And I said, Walter, who should it be? And Walter was a man for giving very considered political answers and not committing himself where it weren't necessary. And he said, without hesitating rather, Derek McInnes. And I think that still stands today. He was doing a terrific job for Aberdeen then. He had a level of consistency over his years in charge there. Got them back to the winners' rostrum after 25 years, a 25-year wait for a trophy, and went to Kilmarnock, got them out of the Championship, made them better, left them in a steady position, and he's now got to Hearts, which is a terrific appointment by Tony Bloom. It'll be interesting to see, how he copes within the Tony Bloom structure. But for me, the pragmatism and the knowledge of Scottish football that Derek McInnes possesses meant that's a terrific appointment. And Hearts are serious contenders. They play Celtic, of course, at the cauldron that is Tynecastle. That will be the litmus test for them. If they can come through that unscathed, even win it, then those who doubt their championship credentials at this time, well, I assure you, have to start thinking about changing their mind.
Well, let's see. It'll only be a good thing for Scottish football if there's 3 teams going for the title. Before we go, Dave, I will finish on a positive note. The Scottish national men's team are doing well in their World Cup qualification. Currently level on points with Denmark. Denmark come to Hampden Park next month. What's the feeling in Scotland regarding that World Cup qualification? Are they confident that you'll be in the States next summer?
Bittersweet is the feeling in Scotland at the moment because Scotland were terrible for over an hour against Greece, and then managed to recover to win 3-1. That was a muggy. Let's be quite honest about that. And they were even worse for the full 90 minutes against a rotten Belarus team. Scotland ranked 43rd in the world, Belarus 100th. It looked the other way around for much of the game on Sunday, which I covered for talkSPORT. So Scotland, I mean, this is a point that I kept making when Russell Martin's in charge of Rangers. You can talk about philosophy all you like. The only thing that matters is winning games. Scotland did win the 2 games, so that's terrific. But the manager himself said, "Oh my God, that was awful." I did an interview with Andy Robertson for talkSPORT, who said exactly the same. Super John McGinn said the same. So they know it wasn't good enough. My worry is that this is an aging squad. They're all, the top men are kind of 65 caps. In the case of Scott McTominay, Grant Hanley's got 65 caps. Andy Robertson's on 88 caps now. So John McGinn's 81. There's a lot of miles been notched up. Robo's not playing very much for Liverpool, as we know, this season. So there's a lot of things that are just kind of creaking a little bit for Scotland. Hopefully that bad form has gone, and next month they can go to Athens up against a Greek team that is now out of contention, and hopefully they'll be really works like this, of course, in football, but hopefully they'll take the foot off the gas a wee bit. Scotland did win nearby in Piraeus against Greece at the start of this year, so they know they can go there and win, and then it's all down for that last game. We're assuming that Denmark will beat Belarus, and then it's down to that last game. Scotland aren't going to top the group on goal difference because of the Belarus game. We're looking for more than a couple of goals, so they have to win that last game against Denmark. Denmark haven't lost a lot of games in the last couple of World Cup campaigns, but the one they did lose was at Hampden Park, so they know they can beat the Danes, but as I say, they just have to show that they've got the legs and they've got they can compose themselves, pass the ball, and win the game. But listen, for all the depression, there's still a lot to play for Scotland, and that's really, really exciting. I do have a good feeling about it, but I am closing my eyes to recent form.